Hi, we're learning how to use Data Studio and some new equipment in this little video so that we can do the matching the graphs. First thing that you're going to need to know is you need one of these devices. This is called a passport, and they're in a bin over on the tables on the north wall. And this connects in USB into your computer. And then today we're actually using a sensor called a motion sensor. Okay, it looks like this. And the motion sensor is going to send out like a signal, kind of like the way a fish finder would work. It sends out a little sound pulse. That sound pulse will then come back, travel back to it, and then it'll detect how far away something is. So it's calibrated based on speed of that beat or that click and the amount of time it takes for it to get back. Just so that you do know, on the very top, there's two settings for the motion sensor. We want to be on the person one for this activity. When we use these for the carts, we'll be on the cart setting. Okay. Um, the way we kind of set this up, again, this is going to go into our USB port. So I'm just going to plug that into my USB port. And then we take this and we plug it into our USB link. And then we have our motion set up. Now, typically, the software will launch the moment that you plug in a sensor. And you can see that it actually did launch. And I'm going to go to launch a Data Studio. Data Studio is the software that we're using to run all of this stuff. And now, it did set this up as an experiment for me. It recognized that this is a motion sensor. So it created a position time graph. I'm going to just expand out my position time graph so it fills my entire thing. And then I'm going to set my motion sensor up over here so that I have a nice area where I can walk back and forth between. Okay? Now when we do the graph matching, I'm just going to switch back here to the graph matching. Here's the various position time graphs that we want to try to match. So you're going to have to move yourself in front of the sensor in order to try to match what it looks like. And I'm going to do the first one here for us, which is just to try to make it go like a straight line. Now, typically when we look at this in terms of a position time graph, we can see that we are not starting at the origin. We're not starting on the 0 mark, which means I'm not going to start right on the sensor. I'm going to actually start some distance away from the sensor. Now, when I walk away from the sensor, that's going to be moving in a positive direction. So you can see that this graph should just have me moving away from the sensor at a constant speed. Okay, and that's what we would like to see. So I'm going to go back to Data Studio, and all I have to do is click on the Start button, and the Start button then will have it. So there I am, and now I'm going to walk away at a constant speed. Okay. All right, so I have my graph that I can kind of look at, and really the range of what I was trying to mimic was this right here. Okay, and so you can highlight that. We'll go over some of the various tools that we can use to analyze graphs at another point in time. The one thing that you do have to do in the activity is we do 6 position time graphs, but then you have to do some velocity time graphs. Okay, and the velocity time graphs need to have a different setting on Data Studio. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to throw away this graph. So I'm going to get rid of my graph, and I don't care if I need that display, okay? Because I want to get rid of that one so that I can do a new experiment, but I need to do a change in my setup. So I'm going to go back to the sensor setup. I'm going to change from position to velocity, and I'm going to close that. Oh, I'm going to delete my run one data, so I'm going to delete that. Then I'm going to grab that graph that's down here on the bottom. I'm going to drag that up and drop it on there. And that'll give me now a velocity versus time graph. And now I'm going to try to match something there. So again, it's going to work very similar to what we saw. I'm going to go back here, click Start. Okay, and now I'm going to try to move with a constant velocity. Okay, and you can see that it will actually match that a bit better. Okay, if you do have any questions when you're working through this activity, be sure that you ask so that I can give you that help that you need. But hopefully this gets you started with the how to use Data Studio and the motion sensor.